about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, guys, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So to boost or not to boost, that is the question. We are talking about COVID boosters. I know many people think it's a dead subject, but it's not, because your medical provider, if you see one, is going to be recommending you consider it as we slowly move towards the fall. And when I get asked, what do you think, Dr. Daliah, should I get a COVID booster or not? And I'm mixed, because I didn't really do well from a side effect standpoint with the booster. I had chest pain, breast swelling, underarm swelling, had to put off my mammogram. It was not fun for about a good 5 to 6 weeks. But I didn't get COVID that year. But what I have been telling you, the reason why I have been somewhat appreciative and forgiving of the COVID vaccines is, one, when it was very, very dangerous and COVID was killing thousands upon thousands of people a day. Yes, it was very, very good that we had a vaccine to protect people. But the other reason why I've been bringing it up is in case we're going to be at risk for long COVID. And long COVID is where you get sick with COVID and then your symptoms could persist for weeks or months. Lack of smell, lack of taste, your breathing, your lung capacity, brain fog. There was a guy with rectal itching, vaginal itching. There's a whole slew of quote unquote long COVID symptoms. And so the reason why, I would ever consider getting another shot, I'm not in the near future, is if I want to avoid long COVID. But long COVID still, to me, brings up a lot of questions. How common is it? Well, one study said it's only 7% of U.S. adults. I mean, that's still a lot. I mean, that's still millions, but 7% of U.S. adults have had long COVID. I've never been diagnosed with long COVID for some of the issues I've had since COVID. So then you would add me, but I'm not a part of the tally. I think a lot of people aren't a part of the tally if they don't go in and they don't recognize that could be what's going on. And if my smell is different, if my taste is different, if my singing voice is different, if my stamina is different, if my memory is different, I blame COVID, but I can't prove it. So this latest study, published in June, looked at data from the Medical Expenditure Panel Survey analysis sponsored by the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. And it looked at 17,000 adults age 18 or older. 8,200 had reported having COVID-19. 1,200 said they suffered from long COVID symptoms. They said if you look at vaccinated versus unvaccinated, 6% of the vaccinated or boosted respondents reported long COVID symptoms versus 8% who weren't vaccinated. So their findings suggest that the booster shots could enhance protection, not by a lot, especially since you still saw long COVID in the vaccinated population anyway, but it was better than the unvaccinated. So we're really behind in terms of this question being answered, because if you asked me if I was vaccinated for COVID, I would say, yeah, I did the series and then I had the booster. So, la-di-da. But did I vaccinate this year? No. Will the CDC think I'm unvaccinated now? Do you need to get the booster right before fall season, cough and cold season, for you to be considered vaccinated? So we have people who are very across the spectrum of when they got their vaccine. And so I don't think we're going to get some real clear-cut answers. Because if you got the series back in 2021 and we're halfway through 2024, so if you got vaccinated 3.5 years ago, I'm sorry. Yeah, that would be about 3.5 years ago. Does that apply? Personally, and this is not scientific, this is just based on patients. Personally, I think we did get some protection from the vaccine. I think we got more of our immunity from actually having COVID. I think nothing could beat what our natural immunity and that system, it's very hard to replicate. I think vaccines do an amazing job, but your natural immunity, if you're healthy, offers more than we can even scientifically acknowledge and understand. So I think between getting COVID half dozen times, getting vaccinated, we have a combo hybrid immunity that's offering some protection. But I don't want long COVID because some of my patients with long COVID are disabled, very distressed, are struggling. And how do you avoid long COVID? Well, they're saying if you get the booster, it does protect you, versus non, even though you could still get long COVID vaccinated. Why? Because you could still get COVID vaccinated, which then means we need another study, or we also need information on what is causing long COVID. Severe rip-roaring, you being in a hospital with your COVID, or even a mild COVID illness is enough to give you long COVID. Well, when you look at all the symptoms, the loss of smell, loss of taste that persists, brain fog, loss of memory, depression. We're just so behind, and we need more clarity. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our Fantasy Football Pocket Guide for Beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. And big thanks to Daniel, our producer. So as a woman, it is not easy listening to now the back and forth and the discourse as it pertains to the Secret Service and the failures that led to an assassination attempt being committed and being as close as it was to possibly killing former President Donald Trump. And even though I want to commend those Secret Service agents for doing the body wall and protecting Donald Trump with their life, and the protection they provide Biden every day and the protection they provide our public officials, I'm very grateful for the day-to-day work. But now the discussions are surrounding how the hell some 20-year-old punk got that close. And so when something like this happens, and we spoke about this, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of anger, but the only good that comes out of it is, are we going to then fix the failures? It's like the Titanic. When the Titanic sunk, one major issue was there weren't enough boats. Horrible tragedy. Killing so many people. They shouldn't have died. But the good thing that came out of that anger was now boats have requirements, or your big ships have requirements for a certain amount of lifeboats to make sure there's plenty of lifeboats and then some for the vessel passengers. So with this, the good that could come of it is hopefully Biden will be safe, Trump will be safe, and other people will be safe because they will find flaws in the protocols or what happened. One example is, I guess, the FBI chief, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheedy, we're being told that one of the issues that, I guess, prevented them from having somebody on the building was a slope of the roof. Well, obviously, this idiot made it to a sloped roof. Does that mean sloped roofs get a quicker sweep and then get ignored? But if that building he was on had a sloped roof, that obviously he bear crawled and made his way to it and was still able to shoot at the ear of the president, former president. So that obviously caused some shock. But the discussion that keeps coming up was her focus to diversify and have more women in the Secret Service a pivotal piece to the Secret Service failure of the assassination attempt? Now, I am going to say no. And the reason why is, I understand, I've seen the videos of women, of that one woman say, officer saying, what do we do now? What do we do now? Another one who was kind of struggling with their holster. Listen, I've seen men struggle with their holster. I've seen men go, what do we do? Okay. That isn't a women male thing. Okay. That's not, but if, as I've said this before with Biden, it's not Biden's age that's causing him to perform poorly. It's something medical, cognitively. If the Secret Service performed poorly in terms of its planning, it's the director. It's not her uterus. It's not her ovaries. It's not her boobies. Now, people think that if there's going to be a woman in charge, it's going to be just all about the women. Not entirely. I've told you, I've worked with many, many women. There's no sisterhood. I have had more welcoming relationships and less obstruction of my career by men than women. So there's all these assumptions and these stereotypes being spewed out there going, well, she's a woman and she said she wanted to. I don't know if I have the direct quote. I don't know if I have a direct quote, but apparently there's a report that she wanted to increase female recruits by 30% by the year 2030. And so people are saying, but they're not big enough to cover the president. The president is 6'3". Biden is taller than many female recruits. Listen, what happened on Saturday was poor planning. There were no drones. They skipped a sloped building. There was nobody to listen to the calls and the cries of the attendees saying there's a guy on the roof. A minute and a half, you're watching this video and you hear somebody alert the police. Again, what about the comms? All right, shooter or just get the president off the stage. We have the protocol should be known by local law enforcement, Secret Service, where if somebody radios in, there's somebody on the roof, then take the president off the stage, assess the situation. Once it's all clear, bring the president back. Trump's not going to get mad. And even if he does get mad, who cares? You give your speech when it's safe. But the fact that kids saw this, you see kids playing in the field. You hear Trump speaking. You see the Thomas Matthew Crooks crawl and bear crawl up the slope. Again, I don't understand how this 20-year-old with no military experience was able to outsmart the Secret Service. Where was the drone footage? Where was the other more technical surveillance? This isn't a woman thing. This is a planning thing. And whoever oversaw it should get fired. Not because she's a woman, but because she didn't do the job. Now, the next question is, well, what do you do? She wants diversity. I have no problem with diversity. They think we should have tall men and short men. Tall women, short women. I don't care what religion, race you are. Just nobody gets put on detail until they're trained. Now, I get it. You know, as a doctor, you could train in the classroom. It's nothing like when you're in the trauma, the trauma department of the ER. There's no, I understand that if it's your first time, but then, and I get it. Not a lot of Secret Service individuals have dealt with a shooting. The last time the shooting happened was with Congresswoman Giffords, and I don't know if she had Secret Service, and Ronald Reagan. So I understand that many of these Secret Service agents didn't necessarily have the exact experience of being involved in a assassination attempt of a president. I get that. But you saw the confusion, and you also saw that there were limitations of some of the individuals who might not have been able to provide the height needed to protect the president. Now, does that mean your Secret Service detail always has to be taller than the president? No, I think you could still have some 5'6", 5'8" individuals, because Secret Service isn't all about the body cover. It's about other things as well. But this was poor planning. Now, let's say we hear back, I didn't have resources. Well, then you don't hold the event. If Biden is going to the Democratic National Convention and we are told that there are not enough Secret Service agents to protect our current president, then that event is on hold until we do have enough agents. It's kind of simple. So we're going to be getting piece by piece more as she's being interviewed, the Secret Service director. And I just don't want the conversation going to, well, she was a woman, or it was just about hiring women. I think women can be very effective Secret Service agents. But yes, if there were women there that were not, or men who were not trained properly, or didn't perform well, or were not qualified, they're out. I don't care if you're a man or woman. If you're not qualified, you're out. If I walk into an OR and there's a surgeon there that doesn't know what the hell they're doing, you're out. If you're not qualified, you're out. So if we have qualified individuals who are women or men, wonderful. But if there's this push, and I'm hearing from so many different industries saying, look, we need to show we're diverse. I think there was a student who put a video on where her GPA was 3.3 and she got into medical school. when most people can't get into medical school with a GPA of 3.3. And I don't know if she was joking about it, how she got in anyway. And so DEI is, and what I don't want to happen is that people start to stereotype or bias against somebody who would fall under the DEI classification because you have some individuals not qualified getting the job. As long as you hire the qualified individuals, you will satisfy DEI because we have qualified individuals of all diverse populations. Just hire and train the right people. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and then at on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I have been asked about these medical savings plans where there's no health enrollment period. You cost share, you have lower monthly costs, and how good are they? And the issue I have in terms of being able to answer that is I only get to see one side. So the side I get to see is the one where patients are in a little bit of trouble, where I say, you got to go to the urgent care, you got to go to the ER. And they say, I can't, it's going to be too expensive. And I look at their plan, and it's one of these cost-sharing plans. I don't get to see the side of those of you who said, hey, I am saving bucks. Daliah, what you're paying for your health insurance for your family, plus the deductible, I'm saving at least $1,000 a month. So I'm able to put that $1,000 a month away. So every year I have $12,000 building up that I could use in case I do have to go to the urgent care ER. I don't get to hear from those people, which I want to hear from you guys. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. If you do have one of these share, I don't want to name any particular companies that allow you to, have cost benefits, let me know. We need to have some honest conversations about this. I'm looking at some of the reviews. And they're mixed. And like I said, my only experience is what my patients tell me. So I had a patient who said that her child was having CSF fluid, cerebral spinal fluid, leaking from her ear. I said, you got to take her to the ER. And I know there was a hesitation, but they're like, okay, I guess you're right. And I looked at their insurance and I'm like, oh. And so, or I have patients where they have some chronic conditions. And I said, all right, have you talked to your doctor about this yet? And they said, well, no, I don't go to the doctor. I just call you. And so my worry is we have individuals that are, trying to make the most of this plan, and they're getting less care to make it worth their while. And then that's not a good health plan. Now, this is one of my big issues with Obamacare, albeit the pre-existing condition, clauses are gone. Very good. But, and now you should have some essential benefits, including a physical. But many people are not using their Obamacare plan because they have high deductibles. So they have an insurance card in their wallet. I've seen it. I have seen an actual card that they got after Obamacare, but they can't use it because their deductible is too damn high. Me, I don't go to the doctor. I get my physicals, I get my mammogram, but it's going to cost me more money. So I have my card. Yay. I'm spending thousands of premiums. So I totally get why many people are looking at these other companies. And it's another issue that I'm hearing is people will prepay and then they don't get paid on the back end. And that's an issue. So the providers are supposed to pay. The idea of prepaying is a fascinating one. I brought it up, and I know you guys weren't happy about it, but I want to be honest. Doctors were dropping insurance left and right. So many of the doctors I trained with, they don't take insurance anymore. You pay them cash. You pay them a fee, and they'll see you. They'll use your insurance for your labs or whatever, but they are not dinking around with your insurance anymore. They're done. And one thing I wanted to do to temper that was, well, what about the concept of rather than the doctor billing the insurance, the patient does? So doctor gets paid up front so they could still be open, and then the patient deals with the insurance company to get paid. But patients didn't like that because they knew that the doctors were not getting paid, and so they didn't want to get paid. Now, I get it. I never made my patients do that, but look, really? Yeah. Doctors aren't getting paid, and that's okay. But if you don't get paid back, now it's the biggest crime of the century. So the whole concept of us doctors doing the work and then insurance saying, I'm not going to pay you, it's not sustainable. It's not a good business model. I told you my father fixed appliances. He was always poor, and he would fix appliances. And warranties had come out. I forget if that was the 60s or 70s. And I remember in the 70s and 80s, because I was really young, him complaining about warranty and that the customers wanted to do warranty where he did the work and then he would have to ask the company to pay him for that work. And he said, but what if they don't pay me? And I remember him saying, no, we don't do warranties. We just do the direct repair. And he fed us and we always had a roof over our heads. But he struggled financially, but he got $25 here, $30 there. It was as good as it could be. One of his customers was Adrienne Barbeau. Apparently she had an issue with one of her appliances and he came and he fixed it. And it's not that he made a lot of money, but he was just so excited that he got to meet Adrienne Barbeau. He said she was really, really nice and pretty. And my mom's like, And I'm like, no way, the woman on Maude? Yeah. And my mom's in the background going, if I knew you were going to Adrienne Barbeau's house, oh, hell no. And my mom's all grumpy. But that's neither here nor there. But so when I opened my practice in early 2000, my father goes, so what are you charging? And I go, well, it doesn't matter what I charge because you only get what the insurance pays. So the patient comes in, do they give you money? I go, well, they might give me $10 or $2 or $5 or $12 or $25, depending on the insurance. But I bill the insurance. And he goes, that's warranty. That's like warranty. The insurance won't pay you. And he was right. I got paid on maybe 2 out of every 5 claims. It's just not sustainable. And so these, is it a good idea to use one of these cost sharing companies or not? Well, it depends. If you have diabetes, cancer, heart disease in the family, if you have not been up to date on your medical care, you need to do the math. Is it worth the savings, but you got to be sucking the savings away and using these plans, or do you need to be able to trust that everything's going to be covered and you're not going to be out of pocket? And so, when we're seeing that many people are paying and not getting their benefits that they feel they need, and that's not everybody. I understand some of these reviews also, and some of what my patients could be telling me is just sour grapes of something else. But when I see people not go to the doctor, not go to the urgent care, not take their child in because of the large copay they're going to have or the cost it's going to be, then you don't have medical care coverage. The only way this works is if you calculate how many hundreds of dollars you're saving a month and you put that in an account and you make sure that the money is building up in the account so that you now have money to go to the urgent care or ER if you need to. But if you're not doing that and then you're telling me, sorry, I don't have the money, you have to deal with this over the phone. I can't cure. I can't help fix. Somebody banged into a tree when he was skiing and had CSF fluid, cerebrospinal fluid leaking from his nose. I'm like, go to the hospital. He's like, no, you give me antibiotics. I go, you have a skull fracture. If CSF is leaking, you have a communication between the outside air and your brain. You've got to go to the hospital. So you got to do your homework and you got to do the math. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So being in the media, I like to comment on things in the media. When you're in the media, you can't not comment on that. And so fascinatingly, Morning Joe was taken off the air for a day. I remember when we initially heard about it, I was a little confused as to what was going on. There were rumors that they were going to permanently be taken off the air. No, they were taken off the air. The show, MSNBC's show, which does fairly well, was taken off the air Monday following the assassination attempt of Trump. And that drew a lot of shock. The hosts weren't happy. From what we understand, the team wasn't happy. And they said our team was not given a good answer. And I believe CNN reported that MSNBC management was concerned that one of the show's cast of commentators or guests would make an inappropriate comment. MSNBC said that was not true. And so you see a liberal-leaning show taken off the air temporarily so nobody would make an inappropriate comment. As somebody in the media, you start to see a lot of flaws in that whole concept, okay? I watched MSNBC, CNN. I watch all of them to get the gamut. I watch Fox News. I'll watch Newsmax. I watch all of them to get the gamut of what's being reported. And I was very impressed with the professionalism that I saw the day of the assassination attempt across all boards. All right. Every now and then somebody was doing some blaming and all that. But for the most part, the anchors who are direct hires, some of these guests don't get paid. Some of them do get paid. But the anchors and they were very professional. And because they knew all eyes were on it. It's not, you don't want to be the one saying something stupid when we witnessed history and possibly the murder of somebody on live TV. So very impressed with how the coverage appeared to be as neutral. And you actually got news. You actually got news from these places. But then you heard that Morning Joe, the show is very critical of Trump, taken off the air temporarily or suspended for a day. And if I would have done something different. If you have a show that's very critical of Biden and something happened to Biden, okay, trust me, you could watch Fox News, you even see CNN critical of Biden. Let's say, God forbid, something happened to Biden and he was in the hospital. Then you let CNN, you let Fox News cover it. That's what they are, they're news. And you let the shows, discuss and, carry on. There should be more to their show than just Biden. Same thing with this, with Trump. So when I heard that morning show got canceled and when I got a little bit more details after I got off air, I'm like, well, don't they have anything else to talk? Does their content always have to be anti-Trump? I mean, is that all they got? And apparently the hosts were like, no, they could have still done a show without being all about anti-Trump. They should have let them do it. MSNBC should have let the show go if they said something ridiculous or if they had a guest that was disgusting or said something pro-murderous, then now you have grounds to cancel the show. But then it also brings the question, if they were that scared to have one of their higher earning shows be on the weekday after the assassination attempt, what are they allowing on other days? What do they know? What are they aware of that they're not acting on? If there are inappropriate comments or hate speech or calls for violence, then the show shouldn't exist at all. But if that's not what's happening, but they just think somebody's going to say something stupid, then you might need to do a better vetting of your guests. If you have a guest that cusses every time they're on air, they're not going to come on air. I mean, when I have a guest, I have to be very, very careful, making sure they're not going to cuss. I have a lot of friends who want to come on the show, but what comes out of their mouth, I don't know if it's going to be appropriate. And so I don't have them on. You have a responsibility as the anchor. I think they should have let Joe Scarborough and I'm sorry, I forget the other co-host. I think it's his wife, right? Is it Nicole Wallace? No. Yeah. Anyway, and I apologize about this. I don't watch the show because I'm working, but let them do their show. Let them show their professionalism. Show that they could be journalists. And then if a mistake is made, then, I mean, we have seen these networks apologize and say, look, that doesn't reflect us. But the fact that you're taking the show off temporarily means you're already admitting guilt, that you have a show that's stoking violence. Now, I don't know much about it. I don't listen to that show. I know they're not big fans of Trump. I know that. But do they really have content that is that violent inducing? If they do, then the show shouldn't exist. That's not what the media is about. And, I've said this time and time again. Why do we have personalities in news? Why do we have these shows? When I notice, I turn off the news. I like watching the news in the morning when it's just the news. What's going on with the weather? What's going on with the tropical storms? What's going on in terms of Medicare or the border or crime? Just give me the flippin' news. But then you have these celebrities and they start their show off with a monologue. And I understand some people, they really want to know. That's why people listen to my show. I get that. They want to know what I think. And I'm honored by that. But again, this isn't your news network. This is a show. If you are a news network, can we maybe just concentrate on the news? Now, some of these celebrities bring in money. I know Sean Hannity, nice guy. I see the appeal. People want to listen to him. Anderson Cooper, I see the appeal. People want to, but there's got to be a way where we don't have to preemptively cancel shows when devastation happens, well, because we're not doing it right the first time. That's just how I feel about it. It just had that look like, and now I start to wonder, in fact, maybe it was a ratings push, because now I want to watch and see what scared MSNBC so much to have to take the show off. Is there something we don't know? Now, maybe now everybody wants to watch it to go, whoa. Or maybe the ratings were failing. And they're like, look, nobody's going to watch us now. So how do we get the ratings? We cancel. I don't know. Yeah, I can't put it past anybody in the media, because the primary goal of media is advertisers and keeping their jobs. It's not giving the correct, unbiased, neutral take on the news. That's not what we have anymore. I wish we did. By the way, when the assassination attempt happened, it was Twitter where I found out about it, because friends were talking about it. None of the news networks were covering it right away. 1-877-Daliah, don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.